Hello everyone, hope you're having a fantastic day so far and welcome back to the channel. My name is Strompfel, I'm your coach for the PSV Enteihoven, and for week number 3 of the PEBA, we're actually taking on Blaiktrout and his Mistralton Swannas. Now Blaiktrout, he's a good friend of mine, I know him from the PCBL, real nice dude, love talking to him, and he's a very good battler as well. He definitely knows his ways around the battlefield for sure, so his record 0-2 doesn't really speak for how well this guy can actually play. So, it will be a very exciting battle for sure, I can guarantee you that. We're sitting at a nice 2-0 record after a very dominating performance week 1 versus Nico, and a not so dominating performance week 2 versus Isaac, but you know, that battle was a little bit more for fun, so if you're looking for something not as competitive and have watched that battle, I definitely highly recommend you watch that after this one, especially if you know Swedish, which will be like a little bit of a bonus if you actually do. So, Swedish speaking aside, Blake has opted to draft the Latios, Shaman, Silvali, Scrafty, Rotom Fan, Mega Ardino, Jirachi, Volcarona, Toxapex, Mismagius, and the Slacking. So very terrifying team for sure. He does have a very good Dragon Fairy Steel Core with the Latios, Mega Ardino, and Jirachi. He doubles up on the Psychic Core, but he solves that right away with the Ardino when he has a normal typing on his Fairy typing, which is a genius in my opinion. And Ardino can actually pose quite a bit of an annoyance to my team. I mean, he can sit in front of something like Milotic, he can sit in front of like Greninja, and he can just wish past to his entire team, which is definitely something I need to be aware of when I'm building. Latios, Jirachi, two amazingly very offensively scary Pokemon on my opponent's side of the field. Latios can just drop Specs, Dracometers all over the place, and Jirachi can either flinch my team down or try to Calm Mind Sweep me, which is both terrifying as hell. Volcarona, if you watch my PCBL games, you know that Volcarona can be a giant threat. Toxapex is always annoying, you never know when it's going to die, and if you don't take care of it properly, it's never going to die, which is very annoying for sure. If you watch my one of the other PCBL games, you know that Toxapex can actually slurp up like modest life orb Psyshocks from my Reuniclus, which is bullshit in general. This Pokemon is way too fat for its own good. Shaman can be brought, in my opinion. He doesn't really have the best responses to ground type attacks, and I mean Shaman could come as a like Garchomp check, but I'll actually pack a little bit of a surprise for that Shaman if it decides to show its face. Silvally, like Jack of all trades, it can come as pretty much anything. I'm pretty much expecting either a Dark Silvally, or no, not a Dark Silvally, a Steel Silvally, or some sort of, I don't know, like Poison Silvally in order to deal with my Diancie. Poison Silvally would be very weird, but you never know. Some sort of Diancie check I'm expecting if Silvally ends up coming. Scrafty, not too worried. Rotom Fan, not worried at all. Toxapex, already discussed that. Mismagius can be brought. I don't really have the best Ghost Resist. I have a Licky, and Mismagius just gonna never break that in a million years. And then last but not least, he has a Slacking, which I am not expecting at all. So, looking at his team in general, we can see some common trends right now. The first one being that my man is actually lacking quite a bit of a good flying resist on his team. As you can see, he has something like Jirachi and the Rotom Fan for flying resist, but neither of those two actually likes dealing with my flying types at all. So bringing in some sort of flying spam would actually be very fun versus him. Next up is actually a thing that I discussed with my man Nico, who actually gave me a mock, shoutouts to you my bro, is that his team is actually mostly special. If you look at it, you can see we had a special Latios, special Shaman. Silvally will most likely come as a special attacker in my opinion. He has a special Rotom Fan, special Ardino, I'm scared of a special Jirachi, special Volcarona, special Toxapex, and special Mismagius. So all in all, he has a very specially oriented team, which is something I can definitely take advantage of in team building. And last but not least is that he pretty much has two modes he can go for. Either he goes some sort of like stall-ish route with the Shaman, Toxapex, Jirachi, like supportive sets and just try to stall me out. Or he goes hyper-offensive, bring stuff like Latios, Choice Specs, Jirachi, Choice Scarf, Volcarona, Setup Sweeper, and stuff like that. And I need to actually be prepared for both. So the two modes is something I need to have in mind while building. But speaking of building, the first Pokemon that I decided to slap on the team is actually going to be this Mega Diancie. aka Saving Light, coming back for yet another week. I think it's a common trend to say, at least at this early start of the season, that Megadiense is going to come a million times this season because it's just so good. Looking at Blake's team, he does not have enough Megadiense responses to be safe at all. We can see that he has 3 main fairy assists on his entire team. He has a Jirachi, he has a Volcarona, and he has a Toxapex, and I do happen to carry coverage for both of those. Moonblast is just very spammable. Diamond Storm will send like 4 Volcaronas to the Shadow Realm, and then Earth Power is there for the Jirachi and to tickle the Toxapex in case I needed to. And Calm Mind is actually a very cool idea that I came up with, mainly due to the fact that I feel, as I said, that his whole team is special. If I actually Calm Mind up something like the Rotom Choice Scarf can't revenge kill me, Miss Magic can't revenge kill me, I might be able to take 1 more hit from the Volcarona and stuff like that, which is very good for sure. So if I Calm Mind up, I can, at 1, take hits, and 2, I can actually be able to just send people to the moon with my Moonblast and actually like beat stall-ish teams. Stuff like Mega Audino can't wall me anymore because I'll Calm Mind alongside it if it is a Calm Mind version, and if it's just Wish Pass, then I will just Calm Mind and kill whatever is coming in to take that Wish. Diancie is just looking so good this battle. I think I'll at least get 1 kill with it for sure. Next up is a Pokemon that I think will get a lot of kills this battle. It's gonna be my Moltres, who's rocking a Sub-Roost set with the Hurricane and Flamethrower. So dual stab and then Sub-Roost with the Sharp Beak as its ability, as its item. Because if you look at my set, you can see that I am very modest and I am very invested. With the Sharp Beak and the Hurricane, my flying attacks will do so much damage to Blake's team. Fun fact, if it isn't max special defense Toxapex with the Black Sludge, I will 2-hit KO that thing on the switch in with my Hurricane, which is absolutely ridiculous. Sharp Beak is just very good in general because, you know, it boosts my Hurricane's power, not my accuracy unfortunately. I kind of wish it did both, but Sharp Beak can only do 1 thing at a time, I guess. And now that I look at it, Sharp Beak actually kind of looks like Moltres' beak, which kind of freaks me out, so let's ignore that. But Roost and Substitutes is actually 2 things that I want to discuss more, because with the ability Pressure that I have, I can actually PP stall some Pokemon down super quickly with my Pressure ability. Stuff like Scalds from the Toxapex. I can probably PP stall the Shaymin like right away, and I can probably PP stall out something like Iron Heads from the Jirachi as well, which is very solid. And Flamethrower is of course for that Jirachi if I need to hit it right away. Now, in general, I think this Moltres is very good. You can switch in on a lot of bulky things like Audino, Shaymin, Jirachi can't do too much if it is supportive. Volcarona can't even 1-hit KO me if it is at like +2 special attack. Toxapex can't do anything and stuff like that. So I'm very interested to see if this Moltres will work out as well as I am intending it to do. Now, next up we got ourselves the Garchomp, who's actually going to be the Stealth Talker for the week, coming once again as a Stealth Talker, which is what Garchomp does best, I guess. We got the Outrage, Earthquake, Stealth Talks, and the Swords Dance. Now, I am also rocking the Dragonium Sea, which will turn Outrage into an absolute nuke, and will just send that Shaymin, which most likely will be the switch in, packing, and will just pretty much send it back to its grandparents, because Shaymin is not going to enjoy that Z Outrage at all. Sword Sense is going to be a like a last-ditch effort if I feel like I need to pretty much trade Garchomp for something else. Let's say that I have an annoying Audino in front of me, I'll just Sword Stance up and try to Earthquake it down. And of course, Stealth Talks are a huge important in this battle. I want to get a Rocks up as soon as possible in order to hinder that Volcarona, and all around just limit his Pokemon to switch in freely on my team. If I can get up Rocks, I can pretty much pressure his Jirachi if it is something like Choice Scarf to have that limited switch in, and like Audino will be more pressure to heal often and stuff like that, which is very good. And speaking of setting hazards, I'm actually planning on setting up both the hazards with this Greninja set. Greninja's rocking the Spikes, Water Shuriken, Hydro Pump, and the Dark Pulse with the Mystic Water as its item, because I want to boost that Hydro Pump's power through the roof and do so much damage on switch-ins. Now, the reason why I want to bring Greninja is is mainly if he brings some sort of like fat balance team. I want to set up spikes very early game, and I want to try and make him switch around. I'll get into how I make him switch around in just a minute. But Greninja is going to set up spikes on mainly the Toxapex, which I feel would be the switch in to this Greninja, because what can Toxapex really do? It can maybe toxic me, set up some toxic spikes. I'm not really worried about either of those. I'm just going to set up my 3 layers of spikes, and then I'm going to switch out into appropriate Pokemon. Something like my Moltres, for example. But all around, Greninja is also really nice because it can deal with all of his offensive threats. He outspeeds his entire team, which is very valuable, except for Choice Scarf, of course. But if he brings Choice Scarfers, I'm not going to bring like Choice Scarf Greninja either way. I can door pulse the Latios, I can pretty much Hydro Pump his entire team, barring something like Toxapex and Shaman, and you know, both of those Moltres kind of take advantage of. And all around, Greninja is looking quite nice this week. I am planning on just hazard stacking him to the next Wednesday. Next up, we got ourselves a specially defensive Celesteela. I didn't really feel comfortable bringing only my Moltres as my wall this week, so I felt like a specially defensive Celesteela made a bunch of sense, since, you know, his entire team is pretty much special. I'm rocking the Lead to Protect, Air Slash, and Flamethrower. As I said, he lacks a little bit of a flying resist, so Air Slash will be very spammable against his entire team. And Lead to Protect with the leftovers will, of course, regain my health, but it will also help me force him to switch out more often, which will work great with my hazard stackers, which is what I'm intending to do. I'm intending to hazard stack him early game, sending my Celesteela and just annoy the hell out of him with lead seeds, forcing him to switch, forcing him to recover more often, stuff like that, and just never let Celesteela die. All around, Celesteela is just very standard this week. Flamethrower is, of course, for that Jirachi. I need to have some sort of like tech on my Celesteela. Well, tech is a little bit of an overstatement, but I have to hit Jirachi with something, otherwise I'm just set up for it for like a sub-Calm Mind Jirachi, which would be terrible. And last but not least, we do actually carry the Reuniclus on the squad, and that is mainly because, you know, it is the MVP, I have to bring it, and also because, you know, I didn't really feel like I necessarily needed a 6th member on this slot, so I felt like Reuniclus made the most sense out of all the Pokemon that I could bring to this battle. Reuniclus can still function as a great pivot and a wall breaker at the same time. Having that Life or Magikarp combination with a bunch of special attack investments will make it pretty hard for Blake to actually switch into this Pokemon. I am rocking the Psyshock and the Shadow Ball as my main 2 aggressive moves, and as you can see, Psyshock and Shadow Ball will just absolutely nuke something. I don't care what you're gonna try to switch into this, because 1, you don't have a Dark type on your team, so I'm just gonna click Psyshocks all around, and 2, your only Psychic resist are the Jirachi and the Latios. I'll Shadow Ball both of those to the next game. Now, something I can see switch in on this Reuniclus will be like the Mega Dino, which is why I do carry the Toxic, so I can beat that 1v1. And last but not least, the main idea why I wanted to bring Reuniclus, as you can see, is that I am very bulky, so I will be able to switch in, I will be able to recover up the damage, and if I am a little bit unsure about certain like coverage moves or spreads or items on my opponent's side of the field, I will actually play very recklessly with this Reuniclus just to get that information, so I can play a little bit more carefully with some other members of my team, which might be more valuable in the matchup. But that's going to be the Reuniclus, and that's going to be the entire team for the week. I feel pretty comfortable. I did a mock battle, it went very well. I managed to hazard stack him completely and then just pretty much win with the Mega DNC, and Reuniclus served its purpose as well. So with that all being said, let's jump right into the battle and see how it went. So here we have the matchup versus my man Blaiktrout, and the Pokemon that he has opted to bring is the Mega Audino, Jirachi, Latios, Silvally, Toxapex, and right in the middle we see a big bad Slacking, and my god, is that Pokemon terrifying. Some notable Pokemon that Blake has opted to leave on the bench is definitely going to be that Shaman, because now Garchomp just says hello, where's your Earthquake response? It's not going to be Latios, because I can Dragonium see that Pokemon into the next game. So I'm just very free to click Earthquake versus his entire team, which I like. Of course, he can have some sort of Silvally type, but I'm more intended to think that Silvally is here to deal with my Mega DNC. He also opted to leave out the Volcarona, which is so good for me, because Volcarona is so scary. If that thing gets 1 or 2 Quividences up, I pretty much lose, which is pretty much what Volcarona does in a nutshell. So yeah, not having to deal with that is just a huge relief for sure, and then no Mismagius, which was kind of expected, because even though I only have brought one Ghost Resist, being my Greninja, which is not a resist at all because it's a Greninja, I still have a specially defensive Celesteela, and my team kind of deals with Mismagius and it's not overcoing anything, so I kind of feel like Mismagius was a good thing to leave out. But some notable Pokemon that he did bring, on the other hand, is definitely going to be that Slacking. I think my genuine reaction when I loaded up the game and saw that the Slacking was on my screen was pretty much, haha, he brought the Slacking, that's quite a funny meme. And then I thought, holy shit, I do not have a switch in at all if he has Thunder Punch. I will pretty much lose the Pokemon every time he comes in, which is not the best feeling in the world, but I think we will be able to play around it. We do see that Dragon Fairy Steel Core being brought to the battle, which is absolutely no surprise to anyone. Mega Audino is fat and can wish support to pretty much his entire team. We do have that Jirachi, which is annoying, can either flinch me down or Calm Mind sweep me. And then Latios is a Pokemon that I do not have switch-ins for, so that is completely valid in my opinion. Silvally, as I said, is most likely here as a backup DNC check, because look at his team and look at my Mega DNC. He pretty much just loses if he doesn't have a reliable way to switch into that, and I think it's going to be that Silvally typing. And last but not least, we do have a Toxapex, which is, you know, it is fat and annoying, but I do feel like I have the ways to actually deal with that, mainly being my hazard stacking and my offense, which Toxapex doesn't really deal with well at all. So looking at his team, Silvally will most likely be that Defogger, if he even brought a Defogger, that is, because Latios just love those choice specs and can just drop Draco Meteors on my entire team and Thunderbolt the living shit out of my Celesteela if he gets that prediction right. So with that in mind, I actually want to lead off with my Garchomp, because if he is Defog Silvally, I will be able to pressure that quite a bit, and if I am able to pressure it enough, I will be able to get my hazards up and let them stay on the battlefield, which will be a very, very big deal for this game. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to lead off with my Garchomp as he leads off with a big bad Slacking, and that puts me in a shitty position right away, because my Dragonium Z actually cannot KO the Slacking right from full health, which is very bad for sure, because this Pokemon is just very annoying right from the get-go. I can go for the Dragonium Z. It will actually put him in range of dying from my Rough Skin, but if he has Ice Punch, he will pretty much KO 2 Garchomps, and I will not be able to get up rocks during the entire game, and that's something I'm not inclined to risk right now. So I'm going to go right into my Moltres as a little bit of a middle ground play, as he just goes for the Ice Punch and reveals to me to be very choice banded, very choice banded for sure, because that Ice Punch does so much damage to my Moltres, which is very invested in my defenses. So of course he has the Truant ability. He needs to be asleep for one turn, which pretty much gives me a free Hurricane, and this allows me to scout the damage off on something like a Silvally maybe wants to switch in, which would be very risky for sure, or most likely the Toxapex or the Mega Audino. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm just going to fire off my Hurricane. He goes into his Toxapex, and you're going to see how much damage I actually do. 54% to a Toxapex. When have you ever seen that? Neutral hit on a Toxapex doing way over half. Moltres is just amazing. If you're ever planning on picking this Pokemon up, I am just telling you, draft this Pokemon sometimes, because you will not be disappointed. This shit did so much damage, and you're gonna see that that's gonna be a common trend during the battle. And I even land the Confusion, which is very nice, maybe inclining this Toxapex to actually switch out. Now, the reason why I don't go for just a second Hurricane is that I think that I want to actually sub up if he wants to go into something like the Audino to pivot around with a Regen ability. If I sub up and I start Hurricaning, I will eventually just force him into like an offensive threat, and he will be able to break my sub, and then I can Hurricane that offensive threat and do a lot of damage. So that's my thought process, and that's exactly why I go for the substitute right here. He just goes straight into the Latios, which is quite interesting. I can just go for my substitute, and since Latios is in here and my Moltres sitting at a reasonably low amount of health, I can just go for that Roost and get back to a very good amount of health, meaning that my Moltres can switch in on something like Jirachis and Audinos and potentially Silvallis later on, which will be a lot of fun. Now he goes for the Thunderbolt. As you can see, he did not actually reveal any like life orbs or anything at all. Actually, he did not reveal anything, which means that this Pokemon is a giant mystery to me, and this is actually where Reuniclus comes into play, because as I said in the team builder, if you missed that one, too bad, I will just recommend you scrolling back, but Reuniclus is mainly here for just scouting purposes. I want to see what kind of item the Latios has. I want to see what kind of spread the the Jirachi has. I want to see what kind of like nature the slacking has, something like that, and that's exactly what I'm going to do right now. Just going to switch into my Reuniclus as he goes right into the slacking, which is terrifying to say the least. But you know, I don't need to take this hit. I have a full health Celesteela, and there's no way you'd go for a Thunder Punch on a Reuniclus when I could have the Focus Blast. So I take that reasonably well, and this just puts on the pressure because I can Lead Seed his entire team without that Shaman, which is going to be very, very good for sure. He brings in the Toxapex, and this can look a little bit stallish. Pretty much every OU game nowadays, just Toxapex versus Celesteela, but hopefully I can actually break through this Toxapex right a little bit earlier than most OU games. So as you can see, I go for the Protect. I want to have Celesteela pretty much maximum health when I switch it out, and he actually sets up a light screen, which is very interesting. I did not expect that at all. I thought you needed like Recover, Scald, and Toxic, and definitely Haste for my like Carmine Reuniclus, but apparently he thought not. So he's missing one of those moves, which will be crucial later on in the game. So I am, of course, gonna see the Celesteela. I'm gonna sap away this HP, and I'm gonna switch right into my Greninja because I feel like it is time to actually lay up a spike. There's been too many switches at this point. I just want to spike it up, and then I want to switch it out. And you can see that I actually revealed the Silvally Dark Edition, which is interesting. Because Silvally Dark means that it is definitely not a Diancie switch-in for sure. Even with the light screen, I'm 2K'ing that shit super quickly. I don't even know what kind of Silvally you're intending to be. If you have the Silvally Dark, you definitely do have the Iron Head in order for Diancie not to come in over and over and over. So you have the Iron Head, you probably have the Defog, I think, and you probably have Parting Shot, and you probably have the Dark move. And if you have those 4 moves, then you are completely walled by my Greninja, which is absolutely fantastic. Which means that I can spike on this Pokemon every single day to Sunday, wear out that light screen, and then I can start Hydro Pumping it because it doesn't have any recovery, which is lovely. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to set up a spike right now as he reveals the U-turn, which is unfortunate, so he can touch my Greninja, which is annoying, but yeah, it is what it is. I got my spike up, and it reveals the Jirachi, and this is also very interesting in my opinion, because there's only one reason you would bring out a Jirachi in my opinion versus a Greninja. It's either you have Thunder Punch or you have U-turn to kill me off with. Because even though Light Screen is up, you can be Choice Scarf, you can definitely take me out from this range, but if you go for if you don't go for U-turn or the Thunder Punch, and I actually break through for, let's say, the Iron Head, I'll be able to do a huge chunk of damage to your Jirachi, which means that you pretty much can't check my Mega Diancie anymore. So I feel very comfortable that either the Thunder Punch or the U-turn should come out right now, which means that I go into my Garchomp to slurp those up as he just goes for the Iron Head, looking like a fool. And I'm guessing I am just a little bit astounded by the fact that he is just using the luck factor, or I don't want to say luck factor, but he is relying on Iron Heads this early in the game, and I feel like, well, he used it versus Greninja, but there's no way he used the luck factor versus a Garchomp. Garchomp would just OHKO this Jirachi and you will lose to Mega Diancie. So I'd say, well, fuck it, I'm just gonna actually pull a double switch right now, because there's no way you stay in right now and try and Iron Head flinch down my Garchomp. I break it out once and your Jirachi is dead. So I'm gonna pull a switch out right now into my Reuniclus, breaking the Toxapex or the potentially the whatchamacallit, the Audino to come in. That's the correct Pokemon. So I'm gonna pull a double switch into my Reuniclus, and as you can see, he just stays in and Iron Heads again, which I don't agree with, but you know, it is what it is. I can't really do that much. It worked out for him, so can't really say too much. Now I finally am gonna go into my Moltres, which is just absolutely a wall to this Jirachi is not going to be able to do anything. I'm just going to fire off a Hurricane as he switches in his Latios, and I unfortunately miss. And that miss is, I don't want to say it's that huge. You're going to see it later on why it did matter, but you know, it's Hurricane. I can't really count on it hitting every time. And Light Screen might be up, but it would still do around 50%, which would have been nice chip for that Latios. But you know, Latios is in, I can't stay in. I'm just going to sack off my Reuniclus, because if he goes for the Draco Meteor, the only Draco Meteor that can kill me is the Choice Specs variant, and as you can see, he's very Choice Specs. My Reuniclus just goes straight down. But a Latios locked into Choice Specs is just Mega DNT food. This means that I can go right into my Mega DNT. I'm going to go for the Earth Power because I am very scared of that Jirachi being the switch in right away. As you can see, I 2-hit KO that Toxapex on the switch in easy time, and I can just Diamond Storm to pick up the 1-hit KO, and that also covers the Audino switch, and as you can see, does so much damage. Now, on the Audino switch in, I can just calm mine up very freely because Dazzling Gleam or Hyper Voice or whatever the fuck you want to throw at me is going to do absolutely no damage, and on this turn, I actually go for the Earth Power because I was fearing that he would just try to pass a Wish into Jirachi, hoping that I would set up more. So now that I realized that he will not do that, I'm just going to keep calm mining up because this Pokemon, this pink fluffy or white fluffy Pokemon it is. This white fluffy Pokemon can't do anything to me, especially with my Calm Minds up, and I can just Moonblast spam this to death. And even if Jirachi wants to switch and I'm at +2 special attack, that Pokemon is going to get chipped so low that that he pretty much will not be able to switch in twice on spikes, which is what I want. So I'm just going to keep on Moonblasting at this point. I have no reason to switch it up. He has nothing as a DNC response at this point, so he's just going to sack off the Mega Audino, which was, in my opinion, the correct play. So now he goes into the Jirachi. I am, of course, expecting this to go for an Iron Head. We have already established that this is, in fact, a Choice Scarf Jirachi, so I can just go straight into my Celesteela to take that Iron Head. And as I said before, he did stay in twice with his Jirachi when I expected him to switch out, but there is no way that you stay in with your Jirachi versus a Celesteela that has leftovers and has Reveal Protect. So that's why I'm going to pull a double switch right now into my Garchomp as I actually get that play correctly. He goes into his Toxapex, which I catch with my Garchomp, which is lovely. So Garchomp is in, I see a Toxapex in front of me, I see pretty much no Garchomp responses at all, and I have seen a Light Screen on this Toxapex. Now, if you think about Toxapex's moveset, you probably want Recover, you probably want Scald, you probably want some sort of Toxic or Toxic Spike, and the last move I think should be Haze, but many people has tried to experiment with the last move, which you can see Blaiktrout has opted to run the Reflect. So with those 4 moves, I don't think you have room for with any sort of like Baneful Bunker or anything, any sort of like shenanigan like that. So I feel like I am very free to fire off my Z move right now. If he switches in his Jirachi, he's pretty much dead, or he's dead to Spikes. If he switches in his Silvally, that is dead to Spikes. If he switches in his Latios, I can kill that like 3 times in a row. If he switches in his Slacking, that would be super lovely because I don't have a switch in. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to fire off the Dragonium Z, and he has Protect, which I was super surprised that he had, but you know, it works out for him, so can't really complain that much. But I'm just going to go for the Sword Stance right now. I think that he will switch out as he just goes into his... No, actually set up Rocks right now, that's correct. I set up Rocks and now I need to sack something. I'm just going to sack off my Greninja because Greninja has done its purpose. I can't really break that much and I have already a Spike up. So rest in peace Greninja, but you did your job and you locked the Slacking into the Thunder Punch, which means that now I can set up a Sword Stance on the Silvally sack, which is very, very nice. I'm just going to Sword Stance up, click that Earthquake button, and something is going to drop. Just kidding. This Silvally for some reason lives, and I did not expect that, but apparently Silvally is bulkier than I expected, and I was just sitting here crossing my fingers that Silvally doesn't have the Ice Beam, and luckily he does not. He just goes for a U-turn and he dies on my skin, which is quite hilarious in my opinion. So after Silvally goes down, I'm still sitting at +2. He brings in his Jirachi, and I am of course fearing that Ice Punch. I can just switch out right into my Moltres as he just goes right for the Iron Head again. Hoping for that flinch, and this is totally fine because, as I said, Moltres has the substitute. If I substitute up, Jirachi will not be able to flinch me. I can just roost behind the sub, feeling completely fine. He has potentially, he needs to flinch me twice in order to beat my Moltres, which can happen, but I'm hoping not to. But instead he actually crits me, puts me out of range from my substitute, which is horrible. So now I just wasted a turn on substitute, and I'm just really hoping that he doesn't flinch me right now, so I get to roost off, and he does not, which is fantastic. So Moltres is now sitting at a very good amount of health, and I'm just PP stalling his Iron Heads right away. He goes for the Iron Head, luckily he doesn't flinch me either, so I can actually go for my substitute, and now I pretty much have this Jirachi in a checkmate position, because I can roost and sub behind my substitute. It takes the Jirachi 2 Iron Heads to break, so I can just roost and sub, and actually stall out all the Iron Heads from that Jirachi, which is absolutely marvelous, because a Jirachi without an Iron Head is not a Dancing check anymore, which means that the anti can... I just misclicked substitute, just realized, but a Jirachi without the Iron Head cannot deal with my Mega DNC anymore, which is absolutely fantastic. So DNC can pretty much just win if I pull this off. So he's gonna Iron Head, just flinch, or just wear me down. I can just roost back up, and he's pretty much not getting anywhere with my Moltres. And on his last Iron Head, he realized that he needs to save at least one, which means that I can just chaos something at this point. He goes into his Tox Spec that's gonna get OHKO'd by this Hurricane, and in comes his Latios, which is sitting at a reasonable amount of health because I missed that Hurricane earlier. So he's going to go with the Ice Beam. I can just go straight up for the Hurricane, and as you see, does 70% to a Latios. And you know that Latios has good natural special bulk, so 70% is quite a bit of a chunk. And of course, I should have KO'd this Latios earlier, because, you know, if I landed my Hurricane, it would have done around 40-50%, and this next Hurricane would have actually taken him out. But unfortunately, I missed that one earlier, which means that Latios is still alive, but I do get the Confusion, which is very, very nice. So, on his Confusion, I actually end up going for a Roost, which means that I'm back at full health, and now he actually goes for another Ice Beam, and Latios returns the luck and actually frees me, which is annoying, but you know, it happens. Moltres actually managed to break through that Jirachi so many times, so I felt like it was needed at this point to actually get the freeze, otherwise Moltres would actually be a Pokemon god. Now he goes into his Slacking. I can pivot around the Slacking if I really want to, but I feel like I'd rather take this safe win right now rather than like doubling around and trying to preserve differential. 3-0 is still a very, very good differential. So him locked into Thunder Punch, that means I can go into my Garchomp, I can go for the Earthquake, I can pick off the Slacking or the Jirachi on the switch-in, and now there's only a Slacking left, which switches in on Rocks and Spikes, leaving it in range of a Outrage, and that will be good game to Blaiktrout. Nice and 3-0 victory for the PSV Enteihoven in week number 3. So we're still sitting at a very good record, still undefeated going into week number 4, which is always very nice. GG Blaiktrout, you played this really, really well. The Slacking was such a cool bring in my opinion. It really put on pressure on me. My god, that could have been terrifying if I actually did not have something like a Celesteela to pivot around on. But yeah, you played this really well. I really hope you bring this back, which I know you can do. You just need to have a little bit more luck on your side, I think. And we'll see each other in playoffs for sure. But with that all being said, I want to thank you so much for watching, and I'll see all of you same time next week. Goodbye.